Hello there, welcome to We Are Crafted in His Image. I am back today with a Technique Tuesday, and today's technique we're on the letter D, and it is for Debossed Die Resist. So basically what that means is we're going to use this die, we're going to emboss, or actually deboss, we're going to use the debossed side, and use some wax, and well, I'm going to use a crayon, and then we're going to use that to create this resist technique where you get the white outlines while you're watercoloring. So let's get started with this technique. We're going to start out with doing the debossing, the embossing, and what you're going to need for that obviously is your Stamp and Emboss machine here, emboss and cut machine. And you're going to need a product that actually Stampin' Up! No longer carries, and that is an embossing mat. Now, hold on, I want to show you the thing. This is the embossing mat here, and I will put a link in the description box to it. This particular one is from Sizzix, but you can see it comes with a silicone mat. It has a specific thickness, and then it comes with this thicker, like, cutting. It's not really a cutting surface, it's just to go through there. However, we're not going to use this part, we are just going to use this one. You may have to experiment with your particular machine and your particular base plate on how to make your sandwich work. When I used this piece for it rather than my extra cutting mat, it ended up cutting through my, I don't know if you can see it in there very well, but it actually cut through in some areas on it. So I opted to use my cutting mats instead. And so this is the sandwich. This is what works in the Stampin' Up! Machine. And that is, you want your base. You do not need this extra little piece here. You just need base number 1. You need a cutting mat. Then you're going to put your die on there. And actually what I need to do first is figure out exactly how to line this up on here so that it fits. There we go. And then I'm going to flip that over. So it is, the cut side is facing my paper. Okay, so I'm going to flip this over, put that down like that, and then my silicone mat is going to go on top of that. Trying not to let it wiggle. I'm going to double check, make sure it didn't wiggle. Oh, I can't see through that one. Hold on. Let's do this one so I can make sure. I think I would rather do it this way. We'll see if this works this way. So I'm going to do opposite. I'm going to put my cutting mat down. I'm going to put my silicone mat down. Put my paper on it. When I did the first time it lined up just fine, but I had a larger piece and then I trimmed it down. This time I'm going to try doing it this way. Again, cut side face down. Face down. There we go. And then another cutting mat on top of it. Okay. Hold that together and let's put it through the machine. Okay. And when it comes out the other side, your paper has the image embossed. You can see the leaves and petals are all raised on here, but what we want is actually the debossed side, which is where the outline is raised and not the image itself. So this is the side we're going to work with. Go ahead and put this over here. Get this out of the way. And now what we want to do is we're going to come in with a piece of wax. This is just a plain old crayon, a white crayon. And you can also use oil pastels, a white oil pastel, but I'm going to use a white crayon because that's what I have handy. And I'm going to rub over the image with the side of my crayon. And you want to really give it a good push down. You want to get a good coating of the wax onto your image. You can also actually do this with a candle stub. If you had a plain, just a white candle, you could rub that on there as well instead of this. Now I'm trying to get just my image. When I did the first one, I ran all the way across like this, and then I realized later that my crayon went over the edge, and you see all this white, which actually is kind of a cool technique. It gives it a cool texture in the background there. So if you want, you can just rub over the whole thing, and because this area doesn't have any rays, this crayon's going to end up getting on it, and then you'll end up with that technique. But I'm going to try and see if I can get just just the flower image with the wax on it and not the background. We'll see. It may not work, but we'll see. Okay, so there we have that. You can't see anything on there. I can't see anything on there, but that's where the magic happens. So now I have my little palette here. Because I'm doing quite a bit of coloring, I opted to use our re-inkers rather than doing it straight from the ink pads. But a little tip for you when you're doing something like this, some of these colors you can't tell what color they actually are when they're on a drop. So I have my re-inkers setting off camera, and they're actually in the order that I dropped them on my palette. So I know that this color here is actually Copper Clay, and this is the Old Olive, and this is Mossy Meadow. I can kind of tell that that's my purple and that's my blue. Obviously those you can tell, but this kind of helps me so I know what's where on my mat, or on my palette here. So then I'm going to grab a watercolor brush. You can use our aqua painters, or water painters I think they're called now. However, because I'm using a lot of water, I'm going to actually use a glass of water off to the side here and a paper towel for cleaning. And I'm going to start with the big flowers. So I'm going to start out with the purple. No, yes, yes. Let's start with the purple here. Pull some of this color. Actually, what I should have done is gone ahead and started getting my flower wet, because you want that water down inside there. I'm gonna do like half of it here first, and then I'm gonna come in with some more color and let that color bleed. Let it blend. But you see how the edges, those outlines, are now resisting the color because of the wax that's on there. So I'm going to get a little bit more water, and I'm going to do another, actually put a little bit of color on here. And I'm not going to do this whole thing on camera. I'm going to just kind of, I'll do a couple of flowers, and then I'll give you a hint. I'll show you how I did the background part, and then we'll fast forward. Oh, I didn't need as much of the re-inker as I thought I was going to need. This is blending out very nicely. I love watching watercolor spread. It's just such a fun thing to watch. You never know what it's going to look like when it's done. Now you can see here I went over the edge. You can actually clean your brush and pick some of that color up. Now granted, it's going to have some color on there anyway. I mean, I should have done it right away, but I'm going to go over it with blue, so most of that's going to disappear anyway. It's going to disappear. So there we have the purple flower. Now the main thing you want to remember is when you're doing this, the next flower I want to do, I do not want to do one that is directly touching this purple. Because if it is, the purple's then going to bleed into whatever the next one is. So I'm not going to do these yellows. I'm not going to do those leaves right there. So what I think I'm going to do next is these three little ones. And these ones took a little more... Oh wait, that's this color, Copper Clay. These ones took a little bit more finessing. I should probably get out a smaller brush to get in here for these. There we go. Too much color there. So there you can see I'm gonna go ahead and finish this area, and then I'll come back and show you the edge, or the background, and then we'll go from there. Okay? Okay, I am back, and it only took me about 5 minutes to actually color this whole thing. However, I did not follow my own instructions. I did not wait for this purple one to fully dry, and I don't know if you can see it very well in there. But my yellow flower, I actually have covered over it a little bit with more purple, but my yellow flower has bled into this quite a bit, and over here as well. Not that it's a big deal, that's part of what watercolor is all about, is the colors bleeding together. But however, if you don't want that to happen, do as I say, not as I do. Make sure your stuff is dry between before you do move on to the next section. Now I could totally leave this like this, but I really wanted to color in the background a bit, mostly because it would actually help highlight all those edges. The white edges here are not really showing because there isn't anything on the other side of it. So I want to go ahead and put that blue in the background, and it's really not too difficult to do. You just want to kind of do it in sections, and again, having a cup of water rather than squeezing out of this constantly helps. And I'm just going to come in and kind of get the area wet first, and then pull in some of this color and put that on there and just kind of let it bleed out, let it blend. If you want, then I like to come in with a little more water. This is just water, but the color is still on my brush, and then I'm going to go ahead and blend even more. And you just kind of do this in sections so that it doesn't have time to really dry in between adding the color. You might want to come in with a really tiny brush to get some of that color in between there. I'm going to end up getting my background piece there. Okay, pull in some color. And the reason I like touching the color right next to the image is it makes it darker there, and then it lightens out as it goes out. And it looks like a shadow behind your flowers. And I'm just going to continue doing this all the way around, and then I'm going to wait a little bit to let this fully dry before I put it on my card. Actually, what I may do is some of the distressing on it before it's fully dry, because it's easier to do that while the paper is wet. So I might do that. There we go. Oh, I just love watching that happen. It's so fun. Okay. Okay. Oh, and don't forget, there are a few little spots between flowers that you'll want to add a little bit of that blue background color, so you can tell that that's, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to continue that, and I'll be back when this is all finished. Okay, so here I have my pretty piece. As you can see, the difference in the amount of white speckles in my background on these two, and you can decide which one you like better. Also, on this one I did not use re-inker drops. I used where you take the pad and just use one of these and get a little bit of ink off the pad. So my colors aren't quite as intense on here as they are on this one here, especially and actually I think I used a different color here and here. Now, to get this center, I used the yellow first, and then while the yellow was still wet, I touched a little bit of the, is it copper clay on it to give it a little bit of a brown color inside that area there as well. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do the distressing now. This isn't fully dry, but the paper is still slightly damp, which is gonna make that a little bit easier to do. So I'm just gonna grab a pair of paper snips here, and I'm gonna rub them along the edge. Now, because it is wet, I do want to be careful because I don't want to really tear. I do want to tear a few areas, but I don't want it like really ripped. And I'm just going to run this along. It just definitely works much easier when the paper is slightly wet. Just kind of run along those edges. Give a little bit of, and creases are good too, bends and folds. We're distressing this piece here. There we go. And then sometimes I even come in afterwards with my bone folder and do a little bit more. In some areas a little bit heavier than others. And then I do come in and I purposely do some crinkling and some pulling, some folding, and even some tearing. So I think like this corner here, it's okay if I get a little bit of a torn piece. You want it pretty random though. You don't want to like curl all four corners. You want it to be pretty random. There we go. So there's my panel piece. And because we took so long in doing all of the coloring and stuff, I have already taken a piece of copper clay cardstock and put a white panel on the inside, and this is Fleur de Flamingo on the outside. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere this one slightly angled. I'm going to bend that in so it doesn't hang off the edge. There we go. So let me grab my adhesive. Now, one thing I didn't mention, when you do this technique and you run it through with the die, instead of using the deboss side, you can actually watercolor, just watercolor in this side here, and that would give you a totally different look. So yeah, I think they both look really cool. But this one here, by running the white chalk over it, gives you that white outline I really like. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw some adhesive on here. Now the paper is slightly warped, but that's okay. That's kind of the look we're going for on this one, so I'm not worried about a ton of adhesive in order to make it lay flat. So then I'm gonna just slightly tilt it a little bit off center. And I have already stamped and embossed a happy birthday sentiment on here. And so I'm gonna, this one I think I'm gonna put down at the bottom. This one here I put in the top corner. But I think I kind of like this showing. I think I'm gonna put it in the bottom corner instead. So that means I need to trim right here. And then we're just going to pop this up on some dimensionals. So let me grab a packet here. Let's see, I think we just need 3. 1, 2, and 1 more. Come on, come on. There we go. 1, 2, 3. And there we have a finished card using the debossed die resist technique. And I think I like it. I think I like it. It came out kind of pretty. A little bit time consuming, more time consuming of just waiting for things to dry. Like I said, I finished coloring all of this one in 5 minutes. I timed myself. However, I should have taken a little bit longer so it could have dried fast, or could have dried better. But what do you think? I like both looks. I like the white texture on the background of this one, but I also like the deep darkness of this one as well. So I hope you enjoyed this technique, and until next time, God's love and blessings to you. Bye!